So in today's session, we are going to extensively cover the business process modeling. Now, business process modeling is an essential activity that a business analyst does in a typical IT project. Now, before diving deep into business process modeling, let me talk about a special branch in business analysis. Now, there is a special branch in business analysis called as business process modeling or business process reengineering. So whoever as the business analyst who are deployed in working in this particular area, they essentially focus on the business processes in and around the application. Now, business processes as in the entire end-to-end business processes. Maybe it's a private process, maybe it's a public process, or whatever may be the nature of the process, they would only be concerned about the business processes within that particular application. Now, this role is sometimes called as process analyst or process modeler as well. So there may be a situation that your designation is not directly as a business analyst who are working in business process modeling environment. You may be designated as process analyst or process modeler as well. So this is a special branch in business analysis which focuses on your business process related activities. Now we have a framework called as BPMN 2.0, that is Business Process Modeling Notation 2.0. Basis on this framework, we would be creating the processes. Like in UML, we had UML 2.5 as the framework. Basis on the guidelines given by the UML 2.5 framework, we used to create our UML diagram. So similarly, for process modeling, we have a framework called as BPMN 2.0. Basis on the guideline outlined by BPMN 2.0, we create our business processes. So this is the latest framework that is available to create the process flows in a particular project. Now first we will understand what is business process modeling. Now what is a process essentially? So process is a series of action which are carried out in order to achieve a particular result. So anything that we do as an input to a particular system, something happens in between. Only after that you get the desired output. Remember the tea making process which I covered in the requirement elicitation session, wherein I said you that you have to give certain set of input, then there is a tea making process that happens, and eventually you get the finished product, that is a consumable cup of tea that you consume. So same thing happens in a system context as well. To give you a particular example, if you are willing to purchase an insurance policy, so you first gather what are the inputs for that particular policy. So you would be having the insured's name, insured's demographics, his address, his other details, his vehicle details. After that, there is a set of process that get executed. So set of processes is like a rating algorithm is being executed basis on the inputs which you have given. So this rating algorithm would ensure that the right premium is calculated, and as an output we get a calculated premium for that particular person who is willing to purchase that insurance policy. Now this rating algorithm would be having different parameters, like what is the age of that particular insured, what is the age of that particular vehicle, has the person been involved in any sort of accident, is he a careless driver, is he a student? If he is a student, then there is a good driver discount that could be given to them. So all these things are calculated within the processes itself, wherein they calculate the rates that are applicable to the particular set of inputs that we provide. And eventually we get an output that is the final finished product, that is an insurance policy. So same thing happens in other processes as well. For example, your online shopping portal, you state your needs, like what you would like to purchase. Depending on that, you go to checkout screen and there is a set of processes that executed, like order placed, order packed, order processed, then your order out for delivery, and eventually when you get the final product, final physical order in your hands, the process ends over there. So process would always be having a start point and would always be having an end point, and in between the start point and end point there is a series of activity or sub processes which are being executed. in order to get the desired results. So before starting of a process, you need to give certain set of inputs for that particular process to execute. Once a set of processes or sub processes gets executed, you get your final end product, which is your output, and the process ends over there. So in a typical system, there could be n number of processes. So these processes can be 100 process, 200 process, depending on the nature of your application or the complexity of the application. So it completely depends on the application you are dealing with, how many number of processes would be there. But if you consider a domain perspective, a domain context, there are certain processes which are predefined or pre-built in a particular application. Without these processes, your application won't work. Now, there is a particular website wherein you could find a set of such selective processes which are common to any domain, whether it's insurance, banking, depending on the project you are working with. That particular set of processes are common to that particular domain. So those are the common processes. Now, in addition to common processes, there are some business specific processes. Let's say if a business wants to give discount for every 3 years for a particular insured, or if a bank want to give a particular discount, some promotion or marketing strategy, then they would be having their additional set of processes to execute. So this is like you are customizing certain processes and adding certain processes to that particular application over and above the core set of processes. So core set of processes is at one side and the additional inclusion around the processes is at the other side. So you, as a business analyst, you have to think about the core processes and the business specific processes when you are dealing with business process modeling. Now, when we talk about business process modeling, there are certain phases which are there in business process modeling. So these phases are outlined by a business process modeling life cycle. Now this life cycle essentially has 6 phases. So the very first phase is your process identification. Okay, in process identification, you tend to identify which are the common processes and which are the what I would say additional processes. So basis on the common processes, you tend to discover the processes. Discover as in you tend to explore more about that processes, and you probably start gathering more requirement in and around that particular processes. Like what would be the input, what would be the set of activities that would be performed within a process, and what would be the end result. After discovering, you start analyzing those processes. Analyzing as in who are the person who could give us more information about these processes, or who are the person or actors who would be responsible for this particular processes. So remember, every processes in a particular system would be having an associated what I would say actor to perform or initiate that particular process. For example, in an online shopping portal, if we are intending to purchase a particular product, then we as end customer are initiating that particular process. Now, supplier supplies the particular physical goods in order to fulfill my order. So supplier is the initiator or of that particular procurement processes. Now, accountant would be the initiator of creating invoice for that particular process. So every process would be having someone who is initiating that particular process. Now this initiator can be system triggered, can be triggered automatically by the system, or can be a physical person who would be initiating this process. And towards the end, whatever is the end result, there would be another person who would be consuming that particular processes. So in my case as an end user, then I would be receiving the physical copy of that particular purchased order. Then I am the consumer or the end user of that particular processor. So same thing, from accountant initiated my invoice. So when I receive that invoice on my mailbox or within that particular physical copy wrapped in that physical what I would say deliverable which I receive, then I am the user or the consumer of that particular processor. So there would be 2%, one at the beginning and one at the end, without which the process won't be termed as completed. So in process analysis, you need to understand who is the initiator of the processes, what are the inputs needed, what are the steps taken to complete the processes, what would be the output, and who would be the consumer of that particular process. After that, you start creating Visio diagram. Now, this Visio diagram is like a tool provided by Microsoft wherein you start designing your processes. Now, if it is a business process redesign process, then you start redesigning the process. I'll come to this part in a while. Now, once you design that particular process flow or the process diagram, you send it for process implementation to the development team. After the development team has completed the implementation of that particular process, you tend to monitor and control that particular process as a business analyst. You see how feasible the, not feasible, I would say it's not the right word, how effective is the process implementation, how people are using that particular process. If there are any challenges that they are facing, then the entire cycle would be repeated and you tend to redesign a particular process and send it for implementation. So redesigning essentially happens when you have a complete process and there are some flaws in that particular process. So you tend to bridge those flaws or close out the gaps within those flaws. So essentially what you are doing in that case when you are closing out the gaps or flaws in that particular process is essentially you are redesigning the process. So designing is like there was no process at all at this point of time. You are designing an entirely new process. And redesigning is that there was already an existing process, and since the existing process has some issues or has some flaws or has some errors, so you are trying to bridge those issues, errors, or gaps by redesigning that particular process over there. So this is the process modeling life cycle, which typically happens in a particular project when you are dealing with process modeling. Now, in order to, okay, any questions, anyone so far? Okay. Now, how we would create these process flows? So in order to create the process flows, there is a standard framework called as business process modeling notation, and the version of that framework is 2.0. We would take help of BPMN 2.0 in order to create a business process flows. Now, like I said, it's a standard for business process modeling and provides a graphical notation for specifying business processes based on the flowcharting technique. So we essentially create some flowcharts. So there are essentially certain types of diagrams which we create in BPMN as a business analyst to explain certain processes, which we will see in a while. Now, business process modeling is the activity of representing processes of an enterprises. And why use BPMN to design processes? Because it's an official standard to design and share processes between almost all BPMN in the market. So there are different softwares which are available which use this particular framework for creating business process flows. So Visio is one of them software. So there are many other software like Eris Process Modeler. It's a free tool that you could use to create your processes as well. Now, we understand that business process modeling notation is something that is used to create graphical representation of the business processes. Now, what is the role of business analyst in creating the process flows? So, business analysts are essentially responsible for defining the process. So depending on the life cycle that we already discussed, business analysts are supposed to define the processes basis on what would be the input, what would be the output, who is the initiator of the particular process, who is the consumer of that particular process, and what are the in-between sequence of activities that would happen in order to complete a particular process. That is something the business analyst would define. After that, they would give that particular designed process flows to the development for further implementation. Now, before that, before giving it to the development team or the handing over to the development team, they need to consult the business people as well in order to obtain their sign off. Now, once they have obtained the sign off approval from the business stakeholder or business people, they would give it to the development team for further development. So this is how the business analyst would create the process, and this is how the development team would code the particular process within a given software suite. So the software suite could be Java, .NET, any XYZ software suite the development team is using for that particular process. Now, once it has been developed, now the business people along with the business analyst would monitor those processes, because these process flows are essentially created for the business people. So business people would see how the process is getting executed. So every process would be having different flows associated to it. Some would be positive flow, some would be negative flow. So how the flow is happening throughout the system. So that is something the business users would check. Now, the interesting part about business processes are there. It is always invisible. Invisible as in we have this diagram in front of us, wherein we have defined all the direction, how the processes would happen, where the flows would go. But how it is implemented is through this particular coding. Now, this code is something not visible to the front-end user, like the business people or the business analyst, when they would be starting usage of that particular application. They won't be seeing the physical processes in front of them. Rather, they would have to execute certain series of tasks or steps in order to reach to a certain process. So every process would be divided into certain sub processes. Now, in order to execute into, forward, what I would say, increment to the other step of that particular process, they have to do a series of activity. Only after that, they will see a increment in the step of that particular process. Now, the interesting part is like you as a business analyst or the business people won't be able to see the process being executed physically. However, you would be able to track the status of the project. Now, let me give you an example how the thing works. So, for example, we consider a hiring process. You are able to see this notepad, right? Everyone. Hello.
Yes, Sunil.
Okay. So, let us take an example of application like Taleo or SuccessFactors. So, these are application which specializes in hiring someone. Now, the first step of the process is like register a candidature profile. Now, before registering, that is a screening process. Now, this HR team, what they do, they screen the candidates for a given particular job role. After that, whoever candidates are selected out of screening process, they register the candidature profile in this SuccessFactors application or Taleo application, depending on what organization they are working for. After registering, they schedule the first round of interview. After they have passed the first round of interview, they schedule the managerial round. After the scheduling of managerial round, if they pass that particular interview, they invite candidature for documents upload. After the documents is uploaded, they initiate a background verification. After a background verification is done, they discuss the offer that they would be giving to the candidate or the compensation. If the candidate has accepted the compensation, that's fine. Else, they initiate renegotiation of the compensation. Now, after the candidate has accepted this renegotiated compensation, they communicate the joining date. And release the offer letter. Now, the process is not yet completed until now, after the offer letter has been initiated. After that, there is still a possibility that a candidate may join, may not join. Only after the candidate has joined, they would do onboarding formality. After that, the candidate onboarded successfully. And here is where your process ends. Right from screening, you could see there is a series of process that has executed. Now this is the process for hiring. Now after the candidate has onboarded successfully, there is another set of process that would be initiated. For example, employment ID creation, then your what I would say, employment benefit enrollment, project allocation. Now these all processes which would be initiated after this would again be having a series of steps like this. Now you could see at every step there is a possibility of yes or no. Yes or no as in, if you have screened a particular candidate and as an HR you are calling that particular candidate, the candidate may be interested, may not be interested. If he is not interested, the process ends over there. If he is interested, the process would go to process 2. Now after registering candidature profile, now the candidate say for some reason I won't be able to go ahead with this particular process. If he does indicates his disinterest, the process ends over there. If he indicates his further interest, then the first round of interview would be scheduled. Now after scheduling his first round of interview, there could be a possibility that he passed the interview or failed the interview. If he fails the interview, the process ends over there. If he passed the interview, the process 4 get executed. Again, there is a possibility that he passes the managerial round or fails the managerial round. If he fails the managerial round, the process ends there. If he passed the managerial round, he is invited to upload his document. After uploading the document, there is a background verification initiated. Now in this process, background verification initiation, there could be a case that his background verification fails. If it fails, then the process ends over there. If it is passed, he discusses the compensation with the HR team. Now if he is okay with the compensation, then this process would be skipped and he would directly come to this process. If he is not okay with the compensation, then this process would execute, that is renegotiation of the compensation. And after that, this process would get executed. Now after the release of offer letter, he may join the company, he may not join the company. If he do not join the company, the process ends over here. If he joins the company, onboarding formalities would be completed and the final process would get executed. So you could see throughout this series of steps within the entire hiring process, there is always an exit path available at each of these processes. Also, there is a skipping path available that you can skip one particular process. Like in this case, if you do not want to negotiate, then you could skip that particular process. So whenever you are designing a particular process in a business analysis context, you have to ensure that you are touch basing with all these aspects. Once a particular step is taken within a particular process, what are the outcome? Will it always be positive outcome, or will there be a negative outcome as well? So this is an example of hiring process. Similarly, you could create a employee ID creation process, employee benefit enrollment process, project allocation process, depending on the need of your organization. Okay. Any questions, anyone so far? Okay. So coming to the scope of business process modeling, so every activity that we do as a business analyst has an associated technique to it. For example, when we create a vision document, we have a technique called as balance scorecard. When we analyze the organization, the technique and the outcome that we get is the org chart. When we do a strategy analysis, the technique used is strategy map. When we do business rules analysis, the technique used is business rules model. So similarly, when we do business process activity or business process analysis, we use the technique that is business process modeling notation. Now, in business process modeling notation, there are essentially four types of diagram. So these four types of diagram are called as process diagrams, collaboration diagram, conversation diagram, and choreography diagrams. So process diagram represents the regular flow between the task, events, and decision points to complete a process in a company, which is very simple in nature. Whereas if you want to show some message flows or communication between the process, you would be using the collaboration diagram. And if you want to represent the message or a group of message in a particular communication between the processes and the participants, you would be using your conversation diagram. So participants are the actors who are initiating the process or who would be the consumer of the process, or they can also be in between the process steps. So for example, in our HR process, so the participants were the candidate, the managers, the person who was taking the first round of interview, and the HR team. So there were four participants involved in it, and in between, whoever was releasing the offer letter or whoever was negotiating or renegotiating, those were the participants, and associated to those participants were an individual process. So conversation diagram deals with the group of messages. If there are message flows or communication routes, in that case you would be using collaboration diagram. So that's the difference between these two diagrams. Now then there is choreography diagram, which represents participant interaction between task and users or resources and the message results of the interaction. So this is a detailed diagram which is a combination of these two diagrams, which describes the interaction between the task and users or resources with the messages or the interaction they are doing. Now this is an example of a process diagram. So in process diagram, we have three types of processes: private non-executable processes, private executable processes, and public processes. So you could see there is always initiation of the process. After that particular process, there is a series of tasks that are being executed. After that, you get your final final outcome, after which the process ends. For example, determine order is complete. So the end user would be dealing with this particular process. Check record of applicant. So whoever is placing that order, that particular record would be checked for that particular. This is an insurance domain process. So this is an insured's particular process. So order is complete is first you are determining. Now why we are determining the order is complete or not? In order to ensure that whether this particular quote initiation that this particular insured is initiating, whether he is a returning customer, do we have his existing data in our application, that for that reason we need to consider whether that particular order is complete or not. Or there is another case wherein you have already created a quotation for that particular person and the quotation failed for some reason. So in that case, we would be doing a check wherein we would be considering whether that particular quotation order was completed or incompleted. So we would first determine that particular part. After that, we would check the record of the applicant, the insured applicant. After that, the rating algorithm would get executed and we would determine the premium of the policy. After that, this particular user is the underwriter user. After the premium or the policy has been determined, it would go to the underwriting team whether to approve or reject the policy. If he approves the policy, he would notify by email that your application has been approved. If he is rejected the policy of that particular insured, he would get notification that the rejection has been initiated because of whatever reason it could be. There would be n number of reasons why the policy is being rejected, and only after that the process would get completed. Now this particular example is an example of your private process. Now private processes, that is non-executable processes for documentary purposes, and if it is a self-executing process, then it would fall under private executable processes. For example, whatever batch script that you are executing or whatever processes that get triggered by itself are called as private executable processes. The word executable indicates it's a batch process, or it is something that would be initiated by itself. There is no one who would manually do it. However, these processes are manual process, except this one, determine premium of the policy. Only after you have completed this manually, the system would do a private executable kind of processes over here. After that, it would again get triggered to the underwriting team. After that, sending a notification is like, if he has approved it, a executable process would get executed and an email would be triggered. If he has rejected it, then also an executable private process would get executed and the insured would be informed. So this symbol and this message symbol, the email symbol, this signifies they are executable processes, something that is self-triggered. There is no manual way of doing it. Now, this is an example of private process specific to an organization, and this is an example of public process, which shows interaction between a private processes. So if you see this private processes, it starts, it checks for completeness, it checks for credit history, it calculates price, it does the business approval, and then it sends the notification. That's completely a private process. Now, public process is like a person is calling the helpline, he is sending his details, and whatever happens, they do a fix of it. So whenever you are interacting with a customer support associate of an insurance company, so essentially you are executing a public process, because the service agent has access to your policy detail, and whatever you are information you are giving, that is something that is taken in the system at that point of time. For example, you purchased a car insurance and you met with an accident. By God's grace, nothing happened to you, but you want to report a claim for that particular accident. So what you would do, you would call the helpline of that insurance company. The insurance company would ask you for details like where was the where this incident happened, what was the estimated damage to your car, like what all parts were broken, and where you involved with some medical injury, where you hospitalized, where did you take your car, where was a towing involved in picking up that car if it is in that brutal case or damaged case. So these all things are something that you need to provide to the your customer service representative when you are logging a claim. After that, the claim processing part would be a private process. So you would only be able to track the statuses, whether the claim has been logged, the claim has been moved to the underwriting team for doing, the claim has been moved to the actuarial or adjuster for further processing. And after that, only when the process gets completed, the internal process gets completed, the public process would show that your claim has been processed successfully and your check has been issued at this particular address. So in between, what happens behind the scene, behind the system, that is something you are always invisible to, but you always have the public processes to check the status of the claim. So this way the process could be divided into two parts: private process and public process. Private process is something that is internal to the organization, and public process is something you as an end customer or end user would be able to track that particular process. So you cannot expose everything to everyone. You have to maintain that restriction level. So that's the reason why there is a need of private process and public processes. Now the next type of diagram is your collaboration diagram. So we see here there are two lanes over here. One is the patient lane and one is the receptionist or doctor lane. So two processes are being executed in parallel, but there is a collaboration that is being carried out between these two processes. For example, illness occurs to a particular patient. So he sends a doctor request. Now that doctor request is received by a receptionist or doctor. So doctor receives the request from the patient. After that, he receives an appointment. So once doctor receives the request, he sends an appointment to whom? To the patient. The patient receives the appointment. After he receives the appointment, he sends the symptoms to the doctor. So doctor receives the symptoms. After he receives the symptoms, he sends prescription pickup. Now that prescription pickup is received by your patient. After he receives the prescription pickup, he sends the medicine request. After that, the doctor or the receptionist receives medicine request. After that, doctor sends medicine and patients receive medicine. Only after doctor sends the medicine, the process ends. Only after patient receives the medicine, the process ends. So in between, what are the collaborations happening? That I want to see a doctor, so doctor receives his request. Go see the doctor, so he receives the appointment. I feel sick, so he sends the symptoms. So pick up your medicine and you can leave, so he sends the prescription. I need my medicine, so he gets the medicine, and here is your medicine. Is like he gets the dosage that it is needed. So this is a simple example how interaction happens. However, the processes are independent of each other. The patient process is independent to it, the doctor process is independent to it, but these arrows, they indicates the interaction between the processes. So the process executes like from here to here, from here to here, from here to here in a zigzag manner. So it is constantly interacting with each other. So in a system context also, there would be many scenario when multiple processes would be interacting with this way. So that is where you would be initiating your collaboration diagram. Now next is your choreography diagram. Now in choreography diagram, what happens is it shows the interaction between the participant modeled as pooled. For example, you have multiple patients, like there is patient, then there are other patient, then there is doctor's office everywhere. Okay, so here you see, I want to see a particular doctor. Go see a doctor, he receives an appointment. So I feel sick. Then after that, pick up your medicine, then leave. Then I need my medicine. Now here is your medicine. Now what is the difference between this diagram and this diagram? So there is a difference. Can anyone tell me? Yes, absolutely. So it is one-to-one interaction between the patient and doctor. That is one-to-one collaboration. But here we have a series of patient or a pool of patient and doctor interacting with each other. So there may be a case that one patient is at second stage, the other patient is at third step, the fourth patient is at fourth step. So that's the reason why you see a different message associated to it, because there's a pool of patient and doctor interacting with each other. So this messages essentially they execute sequentially, but when you see from a diagrammatic perspective, the patient could be at any stage. So it is like these two processes are simulated to handle multiple patients and doctors, like multiple objects in that particular um, scenario or landscape. Now coming to the conversation diagram. So conversation diagram shows the logical message exchange between the participants. Unlike process collaboration and choreography diagram, Conversation diagram shows a bird's eye view of a different conversation, exchange of information between participants. It's a more detailed way of describing your particular processes. For example, we have a particular carrier. Now, this carrier could be a land-based carrier, could be a sea-based carrier, could be a rail-based carrier, or air-based carrier. Now, we need to do a particular planning for that particular carrier. So, we would do that planning with the shipper who would be doing the shipment. Now, that shipper would be having a insurance. Now, insurance would be having a coverage notification with that particular carrier. So, typically, what happens in supply chain industry, like there are multiple channels through which you could export or import your physical goods via land, sea, rail, or air. So there is a special branch of insurance called a supply chain insurance, who essentially takes care of the insurance needs of the carrier planning or the shipper, how or which way they are shipping that particular shipment. Now, for every channel of shipment, there are certain different premiums that are being generated. For an event, let's say you are shipping a particular consignment via your sea route. Now, in that sea route, all of a sudden hurricane happens and all your physical goods are lost or drowned in water. So, what would you do? How would you recover that losses? So this supply chain insurance would come into the picture, and whatever the coverage clauses are there, they would be executed, and the carrier would get reimbursed from this particular insurance. After that, there are locative services like traffic optimization guidelines. So whenever we are in a supply chain industry, traffic is very important for us, like which route we should take, either it's land, sea, rail, or air, so that shipments are handed over to the receiving party on time. So we need to have the traffic optimization guidance as well. Then we would be having arrival pickup confirmation associated with that carrier who is doing this logistic operation. Then we have truck breakdown provision. If in case in between the container or the container truck who is carrying your shipment, if it breaks down, what's the cost of delay? That is something also the carrier needs to be notified. So we would be having that breakdown service notification as well. After that, there is something called as custom clearance, which happens at particular toll plaza or the toll booth. So next to toll booth, let's say you are traveling from one state to another state, the customs rates would be different. So if you are importing a particular item, you have to go through a series of custom clearance. So those kind of notification would also be given to the carrier who is shipping that particular container or shipment. After that, your delivery would be planned and it would be dispatched to the end customer, or if it is a B2B business, to the dealer. So depending on that, this is how your carrier provider would be doing the shipping, insurance, location service, breakdown service, customs or the custom clearance, and consolidator to whom you are delivering or dispatch. Now you could see in this particular diagram that there are a series of message exchange that are being happening. Now this series of message exchange, although this is a kind of a process that happens in a typical sequence as shown in the diagram, but they do not happen in sequence. Now shipment can be sent to a particular location at one point of time. So if let's say this carrier is shipping a particular shipment to multiple location, then in this diagram the shipper would be of multiple location. Similarly, insurance would be associated to the consignment that you are included in that shipping what I would say shipping order, that particular delivery. So this do not happen in a sequence, rather than these are independent objects or processes that are getting executed, but you are connected with this independent object via these messages. So wherever there is a need between communication between two objects or two entities, they would be interacting with each other, and they as a whole would be interacting with this shipment carrier depending on their needs. So it's not in a sequential manner, but it is in a conversational manner. So this is the fourth category of diagram that you would be modeling via your business process modeling notation. Now, can anyone tell me how would you model data flow diagram? Is it part of your business process modeling? You are aware about data flow diagram, right? No, it shows the flow of data within a particular system, how the data would flow from one component to another component. So what you are saying is an entity relationship diagram. It's not a data flow diagram. So data flow diagram is a part of your process modeling, process flow diagram. The very first diagram which we saw, this particular diagram. So data flow diagram can be shown with the help of your process diagram. Okay. Now we will see business process modeling 2.0 notation. So there are essentially 12 to 13 notation that you need to consider when you are documenting your process flows in a particular system. So the very first notation is your activity. So activity are your task or sub processes which are executed by your business process modeling framework. So you have to describe your activity within this particular fashion. For example, in activity, you would be having task, you would be having sub processes, you would be having call activity. So if it is a task, it's a simple square box. If it is a sub processes, it would be having a square box with a plus notation. And if it is a call activity, you would be having call activity in between task and call activity sub processes, call activity sub processes with the plus symbol. So these are the symbol for your activity. Now the next set of notation is for your task type. So here you would be having certain task type like service task, then send task, receive task, process instantiating receive task. So depending on the context of your process, you have to select any of these tasks. So send task is like for sending messages. Receive task is for like waiting to receive the message. Service task is like if a web service is getting executed. And task without any specialization is like any other regular task, any other manual task, like sending document or printing the physical copy, those kind of tasks. Those are manual tasks. Now, then there are other task type like user task executed by a human with the assistant of a with the assistance of a software application. For example, entering the policy detail, reviewing the policy information by the underwriting. Then you would be having some manual task. For example, task initiated by a human without assistance of any processes. So for what could be the manual task? Manual task would be after you have um, issued a particular policy. Now you want to print the physical copy and send out to the customer, to the insured. So what you would be doing? You would be manually checking whether all the documents are properly printed or not. So what you are doing essentially over here there is you are doing a manual activity like manually verifying the policy document or print document. Then there is a business rule task. So if there are certain business rules, so those business rules would be executed and would be denoted by this business rule task. For example, if you are determining the premium, so the age group, the premium for age group 25 to 30 would be lesser than premium to when compared to with the premium of age group between 45 to 50. So that is something derived by your business rule. So if you find any such business rule, then you have to define those tasks in this manner. Then if there are any third party script that is being executed, any SQL script, any JavaScript or any XYZ technology script, then you would be using this script task symbol. Now then there are something called as task markers, the third element. So if there is an action that is happening in loop, for example, executing of the rule engine or rate engine after every policy has been uploaded. So you would, denote it with the help of loop task. If there are certain tasks which are getting executed sequentially, then you would be using this symbol. If there are tasks that are executing parallelly, then you would be denoting it with this particular symbol. So concurrency, is it a sequential task or parallel task? Multiple users are concurrently accessing a web page. Is it a sequential or parallel task? Yes, it's a parallel task. So multiple users are accessing the web page at different locations. So it's a parallel task. Now, sequential task is like we have already seen the example of HR hiring process. So that's a sequential task which are happening between a hiring process or the sub processes. Now, then there is a compensation. If there is some error in a particular situation, you would be using the rollback thing. For that, you would be using this compensation task. Then if there is multi-instant sequential and compensation, you are doing a sequential activity and there is multiple processes which are affected. So you could roll back multiple processes at the same time with the help of this. So these three are a combination of these four if something happens. Now the fourth type of element is your sub-processes. Now sub-processes is like transaction sub-processes and then there are event-based sub-processes. Now transaction sub-processes is like they execute all the internal activity either successfully or none. That is exception case. For example, you are doing a payment for a particular purchase. So either it would be successful or it would be failed. Only two states are possible. If it is a failed and if in case the amount is deducted from your account, it would be rolled back to you. So that's an example of transaction sub-process. Now what are event-based sub-processes then? So it is triggered by an event. Event-based sub-processes are always triggered by an event and they are independent of the parent process flow. So no incoming and outgoing sequence flows. However, an event sub-process only executed when the parent process or sub-processes is active. For example, you purchase a successful order from a web portal, an event is triggered. Now what that event would have? Your invoice, it would be having your estimated shipping date, it would be having an what I would say, the order tracking status link. So all of these would be sent to you via an email. So who is sending that email to you after successful placing of order? That is essentially an event that is got executed when the process got initiated. So events are never associated with a particular process. They are independent of each other, but they get triggered only when a particular criteria is met. For example, successful placing of a particular order. Now then there are something called as sub-process markers. So like process markers, we do have sub-processes marker and more or less they are the same thing. Now coming to the sixth element, they are called as swim lanes. Now swim lanes are very important when you are designing your Visio diagram, sorry, the process diagram with the help of Visio. So swim lane essentially help us to identify the different lanes as in if your application has different modules inside it. So how this different module would be interfacing with each other, how they would be having a linkage between each other. So these modules are depicted with the help of a process pool. Now within process pools, you would be having different lanes for each of these, what I would say, participant. So participant could be an agent, could be an insured, could be an underwriting team, could be your billing system, could be your account department. And within those participants, there would be a flow of information that would happen. So swim lanes are typically denoted in this format. So like pool based swim lane is denoted in this format. Then this is your participant. So lane 1, lane 2 are essentially two participants within a pool of swim lane. Now this could also be looped or could also be what I would say extended in this particular fashion. So we will see a swim lane example with the help of visual diagram after we are done with this theoretical part. Now the seventh element is your swim lane markers. So swim lane markers, for instance, if it is a multi-instance swim lane, for example, multiple suppliers, we would be marking the swim lanes in this fashion, these three lines. Now then there is something called as gateway, the eighth element. So in order to uh, produce and consume process tokens like process instances, for example, there is exclusive gateway. So they are like decisions or the process flows that takes place either only one or none. So this is none, this is one or multiple. Then there is inclusive gateway to evaluate all the outgoing condition and create a process token for each condition. So these are essentially decision making symbols or the decision making items for which you would be creating gateway. Depending on your needs, you would be using any of this category of gateway. For example, you want to purchase a policy, so that's a decision. Yes, no, there are two outcomes of that particular process. So in that case, you would be creating a particular gateway. Now then there are certain events, start event, then end event, intermediate event, incoming messages, outgoing messages, then intermediate messages. So these are how you would be representing your event. So this blurry sign is for something interrupting event, and this sign is for uh, non-interrupting event. Then we have certain connection objects. So these are the lines which we use to connect the object between each other. Like we have normal connection, we have default connection, and then we have conditional connection. So connection between whom? Connection between the sub-processes within a particular processes. This is called as association. For example, you have a process and you want to do some text-based annotation to that particular process. You can do an association. If there is a database, you would use this symbol associated with a particular process. For example, save the insured information. Now those insured information would be saved where? Would be saved in the database. You would be indicating it with the help of database. And then there are some message-based connection events as well. After that, there are something called as data objects. Now, data objects, they provide information about the activities required to perform what they produce, and data objects can represent a single object like this or a collection of objects like this. You can represent it in any way you like, depending on your context of the project. Now, 12th type of notation is your artifact. So whatever grouping or texting you do, for example, you want to group 2-3 sub-processes within a particular process. So you could use a grouping kind of structure like this. If you want to describe a particular process, you would be using annotation like this, text-based annotation. So that is your 12th artifact. Now we'll see a sample process. So this is a sample sales processing example. So here we have received the order. After receiving the order, we review the particular order. So after reviewing the particular order, a message is sent to your payment team, wherein a payment is being requested, or the payment system. It's not the payment team, it's the payment system. So payment system requests the payment, and after that it processes the credit card. After the process the credit card, if the transaction is successful, if it's a valid credit card, then it prepares the invoice and the payment is complete. If it is not a valid credit card, or if the credit card is blocked for any XYZ reason, depending on what the business rule is, a cancellation is initiated and the order is cancelled. Now after reviewing the order, the sales processing team, the order goes for processing that particular order. Now in between, if the user cancels the order is cancelled. If it is So after the order has been cancelled, what are the typical set of items that happen in the processing order is like, now there are two things over here in this process flow. Once is like during the processing of the order is cancelled. So process ends over here. Now the other part is like during the processing of the order and it goes to the next step wherein it ensures that the payment is completed or not, and in the next step it ensures whether the order has been cancelled, and in the next step it estimates the delivery time when the order would be delivered. So in order to determine these three things, they need this statistics and this statistic, whether the order has been initially cancelled or not. If it is initially cancelled, it would go by this flow. If the payment is complete by this flow, it would go by the payment flow. And if the order is not in stock, then what is the estimated time for that particular order which has been received, by which the order would be restocked and it could be sent it to the customer. In that case, it would be giving us a time. So essentially, this decision is a combination of this process and this particular process. Depending on that, it gives the different variation in output after the decision. If it is a cancelled order, it would restock the product and order restock. If payment is complete, it would ship the product and order is complete. If it is a, the order are not available at that point of time, when the order is received, it would restock the product and it would go as unpaid order because the product is not yet available. So there's no point in collecting the payment at that point of time. So it would result in unpaid order. So this is a sample process of a particular business process flow. Now we'll go for a 5-minute break, and after I come back, I'll show you how to create a process flow with Visio. We'll create a process flow of our own, of the project work which I gave you, the insurance domain. So remember, in our BRD discussion yesterday, I talked about as-is model and to-be model. So what I would be showing you is the as-is model of our project, and you have to create the to-be model. So we will go to our project work. I would select only one project for this. So our first project states that reduce agency commission cost by connecting end users directly with the insurance company. This is what we have described the to-be model. Now they have targeted below outcomes through this initiative. The user would be able to create an insurance quote over the website without contacting any insurance agent. That means in as-is model, the insurance agent are there. The user would be able to purchase an insurance policy after successful quote creation. So this is something that is being communicated by the agent to the insurer. Only after then they make the payment. So as-is model has in between agent in them. Now the system should provide guided direction that is part of your to-be model. Now let me create an as-is model for basis on this requirement. So first what I would do, I would go with this thing, swim lanes. So I would give a title to the swim lane. This is an example of Atlantic Insurance Corporation as-is model. Everyone is able to see what I'm doing on screen, right? The face part, I don't need it. I will delete it. So this lane would be for my insured who is requesting for an insurance. Okay. Now I would include another lane. Now this lane would be for my agent, to whom the insured would come with their insurance needs. After that, I would be putting a lane for the actual system, that is called as policy administration system. After that, I would be needing one more lane. Now this lane would be for underwriting system, who would actually reviewing the application. After that, I would be needing the payment or billing system. I would need the payment as billing, wherein the insurance premium would be collected. After that, I would be having any third party system. For example, if I would like to pull a report for a particular insured, whether how good he was at driving and all those stuff. So I would be having third party system. Let me name it as Lexis. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 participants in this particular process. So let me name this process as, I should name this process as quote to bill process. So this is how my swim lane diagram looks like. Now what would happen, where the process would start at the first place. So we need a start symbol over here. So if the symbol are not present, would always go to this flowchart symbol and include whatever events you would like to, which would be part of this particular diagram. So we have the start event with us. Now the event start from here. So let me place it at the center. Now there is a task request for insurance policy. Now what agent would do, he would accept the request from whom, from insured, whatever request he is giving to him. At the same time, he would collect policy details. So this would be done in multiple format. Collect insured details, collect policy demographic details. After that, this information would come to the policy administration system. So here there would be a task like entering, since it's a system, we are entering information. So entering policy details, sorry, insured details, enter policy details, enter coverage details, rate policy, generate code. So never use words like entering. Always use the word like enter whenever you are doing this particular business process flow work. Generate code. After generating the code, you would send that particular code to whom? To the underwriter. Send for approval. Now what underwriter would do? Underwriter would now review it. Would review code, send request for bill. Now before that a decision would happen. Decision as an issue policy or not. If it is yes, it would send for billing. If it is no, then the process would end over here. After that, what the payment team would do, they would collect payment. And they would test payment complete. Now, if there are certain third-party integration that is happening, then you could denote it over there, like receive credit score request process request and send request. So we'll first connect it. Whatever decision we want to make, payment successful, yes, payment successful. If it is no, then payment successful is process ends over there. If it is yes, then the payment is complete. Now here also same thing we have to denote sequentially to connect these things. It is a no, it is a no, then the process would end over there. Now similarly we would connect these elements. Same thing we would do for this as well. Now we would start defining the interaction that crosses this swim lane. So the process starts here. We would define the start of the process, request for information, request for insurance policy. To whom the request would come? The request would come to the agent. Now once the agent receives the request, he accepts the request, he collects insured details and he collects policy demographic details. Now to whom this particular details would go? To the Atlantic Insurance Corporation's policy administration system. So this is where the information or the insured details would be entered. After the policy detail, the coverage detail, the policy has been rated, the quote has been generated, it would be sent for approval. To whom it would be sent for approval? To the underwriting team. So after this process, it would cross this lane and it would come to the underwriting team for approval. Now underwriting team reviews the quote. If he decides issue the policy, he sends request to billing. If he decides no, the policy shouldn't be issued, the process ends there and there itself. If in case they decide that the policy should be issued, so they would send the information to the billing team that go ahead and collect the payment. After that, the request come to the billing team for collection of the payment. Now, after the collection of the payment, if the payment is successful, they would notify the payment is complete. And if it is not successful, then the process ends right there. Now, this is a third party system. Third party system as in this is triggered during the policy administration system. So whenever you are reading a particular policy, you would be needing additional information. For example, receiving your credit request. So for that, what we would do, we would connect this with the rate policy and it would go to this particular line. Okay. So this particular angle, this is called as jumping. So you need not to do anything over here. It would be taken care of by your system itself. So during the rating of policy, it needs a credit report from LexisNexis. It requests for a credit report and the LexisNexis would send the report now to your system. So we would again send this particular thing to this particular system. Now credit report has been sent in the rate policy process. After that, when you send, when the payment is complete, to whom it would be notified? To the underwriting team. So for notification, it could be a symbol like okay. We'll create a task for notification like payment received. So who would send the payment received notification? It would be your billing department. So they would send the notification that payment has been received. Now, when the payment has been received and the notification is sent to the underwriting team, what would happen essentially over there? It would be notified to whom? The agent. So what would happen over there? We would create the same thing, task for agent link, payment notification received. Now this notification would be sent from whom? From the underwriter to the agent. After the notification has been sent, this thing would be notified to the insured as well. Payment has been collected. And who would be notifying it? Since a agent is in between, agent would be notifying that the payment has been collected and your policy has been issued. Now, after the payment has been received, there are certain other notification that would come into the picture, or other thing that would come into the picture, like how you would be delivering the physical copy. After the payment has been received, you have to show certain document object like policy document generated, and you would be showing a database object that policy information has been saved. I don't know where is that database object. Instead of this thing, we would create this particular document. This symbol is named as policy document generated. Instead of 12 pixels, I will make it as 9. Now, instead of having this plain detail, I would rather be having a person symbol over here. In short, this would give more visibility to my visual diagram. This is agent. In order to indicate that it's a manual thing that is being happening, then underwriter is essentially a user of a particular system. So I would name that underwriter over here. Billing payment related fee like that. Now I want to generate this document. I have already generated. Okay, I got the database name fine. This is where your information would be saved. Save information to database. Now after the payment has been received, you would be saving your information to the database. So this is something that would be happening over here. Now you may indicate it with the color scheme as well. So if you would like, you could indicate this as payment collected. Whatever the payment related information is there, you could signify it with the payment color scheme. Okay. So this way you could give some legend to your visual diagram. Whatever third party information is there, you could indicate it with this yellow color. Okay. And wherever the agent specific information are there, you could indicate it with, let's say, blue color. So this way you should be able to do this thing, what I would say. Beautify your visual diagram, and whatever it is specific to policy administration system, you could specify it with this symbol. Now this is payment notification received, so it would again go in this orange color. And for agent, we would define certain another color scheme, let's say green. For this thing, define another scheme, let's say this. So towards the end, we could create a legend kind of thing wherein we can specifically define which color represent process of whom. Okay. Towards the end, if you want, you could include a text section, and there you could highlight your legend, like in short, agent, policy administration system, underwriter, billing, and your third party system. So legend are essentially used to signify what this color scheme you have used for. So for insured, Align as left. For ensure color scheme like this. For agent, color scheme was green. For policy administration system, my color scheme was gray. For underwriter, my color scheme was dark blue. For billing, my color scheme was orange. And for third party system, my color scheme was yellow. So this way we can create a particular visual flow. So this is an as-is model. You can create your 2B model. You have to eliminate the agent and you have to directly connect this insured with your policy administration system. After you have completed this, what you have to do, you have to save it as in your particular folder, whatever format you want. Let's say JPEG format, save it. So the name of it is drawing1. So this is how your visual flow would look like. So whatever design document you are creating, you could include, copy paste this visual flow right there. Any questions, anyone? Start of a particular process. So when you copy paste this in a Word document, it would look like this, your as is model. This is the start of the process and these circles are end of the process, the dark circles.